Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the 2015 Advent Reflection Series. This week's reflection will be on faith. May God open each of our hearts this Advent to receive Christ. Advent, as many of you know, is a time of preparation. These weeks of Advent focus on the coming of Christ, and not only do we prepare to welcome Christ this Christmas and the mystery of his incarnation, we are also preparing for Christ's second coming. And more than that, we are preparing to welcome Christ into our hearts, into our very lives. And so Advent is a time to deepen our faith, to help us grow in our trust and our confidence that Christ's presence is always among us, and confidence that Christ's coming will bring a new rule in our lives. Our faith helps prepare in our lives a fitting dwelling place for Christ's Spirit. And so faith lays the groundwork upon which our lives are shaped. And for this very reason, I want to begin this Advent reflection with a focus on faith. Now, without getting into something too philosophical, I think it is necessary to lay some groundwork. When I speak of faith, what are some words that come to mind? Some words that may come to mind for you or maybe belief, trust, or maybe even confidence. But first I want to point out something important. That faith is a gift of God. It is a gift from God. It is one of the theological virtues, as you know, as faith, hope, and love. It is also known as the supernatural infused virtues, meaning it is a virtue that can't be acquired by our own strength. I cannot exercise faith without the help of God. And before we can ever truly believe in something divinely revealed is true, I need God's grace to do it. We need God's grace to do it. Now, I want to do a little exercise with you to help illustrate this. And this is the same exercise I did when I first gave this reflection this past Saturday. Let's say I give the person next to you a coin. You don't see what I give the person at all. It could be any coin. Now I'm going to ask you a question to see if you believe me. I just gave the person next to you a quarter. Do you believe me? When I first did this exercise, the lady told me that she didn't believe me. And when I asked her why, she said because it didn't sound like a quarter. Because I actually dropped the quarter onto the ground. Then I asked, is it at least plausible or believable that it could have been a quarter? Well, she said yes, but she couldn't be certain about it. So faith is different. Faith requires both certainty, a firm assent, and not being able to know something in a way like I know the world around me, through observation, in a way that I know that quarter that I had in my own hand. So as you noticed in the exercise, there's no certain proof that what I gave was a quarter. Sure, it's reasonable. It sounds very likely. But can we say yes with certainty? There is something missing, something that is important in faith when it comes to faith. A definition of faith by the Catechism states, believing is an act of the intellect, assenting to the divine truth by command of the will, moved by God through grace. So when it comes to faith, there is a limit to what our minds can do. This is not the same as science or when I was doing physics, as when I can observe a measurement and come to know something or know about something through observation. When it comes to something divinely revealed, I can only deliberate, or we can only deliberate. We can doubt, we can be inclined toward one side or another, but it is another step to believe. to believe something as true, not just incline toward it. It requires something crucial, other than just the content that is to be believed. It requires a relationship. It requires belief in someone who is revealing a truth. One of the reasons I wasn't believed during the exercise is because there was not a relationship between us. For example, we are more likely to trust a close friend and what they say than a total and complete stranger. And here's another example. For example, little children firmly accept what their mom says. Children have a profound trust in their parents. Yet even though their trust is absolute, it isn't truly faith yet. It's certainly a start, but it's immature. Faith also requires us to use our intellect, our mind, something that God gave us. God gave us each minds capable of grasping the world around us. However, this example of a child's faith in their mother shows the importance and the role of relationship in belief. So here's a crucial question. How is our faith born? How does it grow? This is taken from Pope Francis's first encyclical Lumen Fidei. Faith is born of an encounter with the living God, who calls us and reveals his love, a love which precedes us and upon which we can lean for security and for building our lives. Love is always the starting point. And this is interesting because we are going to end this series with love. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Thomas Aquinas or Neoplatonic philosophy, but in this system, in Thomas Aquinas' system, everything begins in God and returns to God. And so here too, everything begins in love and returns to love. It is in encountering the living God in our own lives that we come to know his love for us. And it is through this love that we come to desire the goodness of God as goodness itself. St. John tells us that we love because he first loved us. It is in having been loved first that we return love. It is encountering the love of God that we come to know the goodness of God and that God is to be trusted. It is through the gift of relationship, that bond of love between humanity and God, that we come to believe in all that has been revealed. It is through an encounter with the living God that we understand that God, who is the source of every good, is the only object of our desire. When we make an act of faith, what compels us to believe is not the evidence or that the content that is to be believed is reasonable or understandable. It is the very thing we desire and love that drives us and compels us to believe. It is God. It is through the gift of love that we freely will to accept and affirm all that has been revealed to us by God. And our intellect comes to accept that what God has said is certain and true. We believe because we desire communion in the very being of God, the very one whom we love. We believe because we desire to participate in the knowledge of God. Simply put, we believe because we want to. We believe because we love. Advent is the perfect time to encounter and re-encounter the living God in our lives. To come to know and love God and to renew our faith in him. There is nothing new when we encounter God in our lives. It is always new and refreshing. St. Augustine would say, O God, ever ancient, O God, ever new. That there's always something new about God when we encounter God. There's something new when we encounter him. In encountering God in this way, it is like falling in love all over again. It's like falling in love for the very first time. Whenever we are at Mass, we encounter the living God in the Eucharist. Whenever we read Scripture, we encounter God in His Word. Wherever there is mercy, wherever there is justice, wherever there is healing, wherever there is joy, there is the presence of the living God. Because mercy, justice, and our joy and healing is a participation in God's own mercy, in God's own justice, in God's own healing, and in God's joy. Wherever there is anything good, there is the presence of the living God. Because all that is good participates in God's goodness. Wherever there is anything that exists at all, there is the presence of the living God. Because He created it, and all things exist in God. And all things exist through God. Advent is all about Christ's coming. It's more than just preparing for His second coming or celebrating His first coming. It's also about preparing for Christ, a dwelling place in our hearts and in our souls. It's about making room for God within our souls. It's about turning our will toward God, turning our will to the one who loved us first, that we may grow more confident and trust. So let us take this time, this Advent, to encounter God, so that we may increase our faith in God. So take some time to either go to daily Mass or adoration. Maybe take some time this season to encounter Christ in the Scriptures. Take some time, of course, to pray with your families, or take some time to spend with your friends and family. Take some time to encounter the living God and the homeless, the poor, and those who are most forgotten. May this season of Advent be an encounter with Christ, that Christ may give us the gift of faith. May He show us that what we truly desire is Him alone. And may we cling to Him with faith and in all He will do for us. And this concludes this week's reflection on faith. And next week, on December the 5th at St. Elizabeth's Church, after the Saturday Mass, there will be a reflection on hope. And may God bless each one of you.